What is going on? People of the podcast sphere, people of YouTube, we're freaking back, baby. Welcome back to Spectator Diff. It's been a while. It's been an off season. It's been a new year. It's been a lot of things. It's been a day for everybody here at the podcast.
It has been.
But man,
holy smokes.
Welcome back. Some housekeeping before we kick things off here. You know the drill at this point. We are the two most underpaid spectators in the Overwatch League, here to give you our opinions that nobody asked for on on Overwatch 2 and the Overwatch League specifically. We'll be here as often as we want to be, frankly. Once a week is not exactly conducive for both of us right now. We both have lives and jobs and things, and we're tired old men at this point. So
quite frankly, we are tired old men.
Yes. So we will be here when we can be, and we'll bring you all kinds of things like the news, the predictions. We're going to go over some games of the week when there's ones to talk about. And you know the drill. If you're here and you found us, you've seen our other stuff, you know what we do here. So obviously, I'm Brad. Matt is over in that box over there. I forgot to introduce us at the beginning because it's been a while since we've done this. But here we are, and we're going to have some fun. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you consume your media. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, do all of the things, press all of the buttons, turn your computer off. I don't know. Touch some grass. Anyway, we're here. We're having fun. That was a long intro. Hey, Matt, let's talk about Overwatch.
Goddamn, Brad. Yes, let's talk about some Overwatch. I think the best place to start is just for some, general updates on account of we haven't been here for a while, so maybe we should talk about some of the things that we missed. And I want to start with something that I'm pretty sure you have a little bit more information and grasp of than I do, just because you're a little bit more well-read on the situation. Hey, let's talk about that Blizzard-Microsoft merger for a little bit. How's that going?
I'm flattered that you think I'm more well-read on this. I know the basics of this because it just happened the other day. For anybody who's...
This is me assuming you read an article that I saw a headline of. That's all I get.
I've gone... Yeah, a couple sentences will suffice, but the massive Microsoft-Blizzard merger was blocked in the UK. It can be appealed. It is unlikely that it will be, so it is entirely possible that this merger, this very sought after and hopeful merger that kind of all Blizzard fans and, I don't know about Microsoft fans, but I don't know if there are Microsoft fans. Anyway, Blizzard fans,
I don't know.
Yeah, Blizzard fans have been looking forward to, because it was sort of a breath of fresh air for the community and kind of a hopeful idea for the future. And so the future of the company is uncertain. I'm sure it will continue. Obviously, they've been, standalone company for quite some time. It's just no longer about to be very well funded. And, we've seen what happens when they are struggling for funds. So hopefully, and I'm not, we're very anti-business, big business here, and capitalism here at Spectator Diff. In this one particular instance, might be better if they merged. Might just be better. Don't really know. I will say some funny things did happen. I don't know if you saw some of the articles from our the mutual people we follow on Twitter. But there were some very fun quotes that they tried to use, like IGN articles and like other weird game source articles as evidence for why this isn't unethical. So
yeah, right. Like why it isn't the world's biggest monopoly in games of all time or whatever.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not particularly more well-read. I just know the basics of it. I do know that, like, again, I'm not particularly optimistic for the merger in general, but also the outcomes after the fact. But I'm not the most optimistic human being. I'm a realist, which is just a nice way of saying I'm negative.
Yeah, man. Dude, I don't know. Like you said, we're not a finance and or capitalist podcast, so I'm not going to go off on whether or not I think Microsoft and Blizzard should merge, but it certainly does feel like Blizzard is kind of at this impetus where it needs to figure out like what the fuck it's trying to be. And I think they were hoping Microsoft money would help, and it sounds like it's not gonna. So yeah, I'm interested to see what comes of this. Personally, I think that this is a good place to transition into The third thing that I had on our list here to talk about, which is, going from talking about Blizzard merging and hopefully having some more income to talking about now what the 2023 Overwatch League season looks like, how the format has changed, how we feel about the format, and what this dying merger could mean for Overwatch League in the long run, which personally I think is nothing good. I don't think it means anything good in the long run for Overwatch League. I think Overwatch League stands to probably suffer the most. But Brad, what are your thoughts on 2023 season format, the way things have been set up? Yeah, what do you think?
I'll try to be brief about this. I'm going to start with the implications from the merger falling through. You and I were joking the other day about how it looked like they have really upped their production value in the studio where they're broadcasting the league, and how they have a really nice desk now, and they had a lot of screens, and they were able to stand up and go point at stuff, which they weren't doing before. It looked like an actual sports cast, which was very cool. All of that comes from funding, which, I mean, the Overwatch and Blizzard have not particularly been open about throwing money at the league. The league has had to do a lot of its own stuff standalone. They've had to acquire their own sponsors. Those sponsors were at the behest of the actions of Blizzard, unfortunately. So they came and went with the actions outside of the league's control. And the league has been doing its best for a while. And so with, the part of the implications from the merger in the first place were that, maybe the Overwatch League is going to have better funding. Maybe these teams will be in a better position. Some of them are owned by massive orgs, but some of them don't have the same funding. So if this merger does not happen, and if there's not another acquisition attempted by another company, I don't really know about the sustainability of the league. The thing is, like, we talked about this last season. APAC has been at a massive disadvantage now, probably more than it's ever been. I will talk about this more in a minute, but like, there's only 6 teams in the APAC region. It's weird. Yeah. Teams, all of this past off season, we had teams folding, teams shifting cities, moving around, changing regions. Dallas is now in APAC. That's kind of weird. Like, if they can't sort this out, it's not gonna be sustainable for the league. I mean, we've heard the rumors of LA possibly being done after this year if they don't get acquired. It's just like it's a whole domino effect that kind of stems from the merger. The money needs to be there, or this just can't happen. There's a lot of production value and a lot of effort that goes into this, and people are getting paid to play video games and to coach these people to play games and do all the media and all this extra stuff. So the money has to be there. That's thing one. As for the format, I'm not the biggest fan. I like it slightly better than last year. I think it's still way too convoluted. And it boils down to the fact that they should just merge the 2 regions and figure out the logistics of getting the games to work out on the least amount of ping possible. I know they're trying to like hold these regions within themselves for as long as they can, because trying to send teams to cities to do live games is very expensive, going back to the merger and the money thing. And they don't want to have these players playing on bad ping because it ruins the competitive integrity. But unfortunately, there's not as much competitive integrity when you have 2 separate regions effectively doing 2 different things. That said, right. I love the Pro-Am. I love the idea that we get to see the contenders go up against the Overwatch League because they're 2 completely different styles. We'll talk more about what I mean by that later as well, because I think it's a lot like going from like AAA to
Double A to Triple A.
Thank you. That's what I meant. It's a lot like going from AA to AAA, and the style and how these teams play is very similar in the ferocity and things like that.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed the Pro-Am, and I agree with you. Like, I think anything we can do to develop that path for pro is where the constitution of the league really sits. I agree. Like, merger not going through, bad news for Overwatch League, but the reality is that like esports kind of across the industry is struggling a lot right now, and I think that we are at a bit of a tipping point for esports where, at least my hope personally as a fan, is that we're going to see some of these sports start to split away from the game developers and we get more independent leagues that operate outside of the thumbprint of the publishing company that makes the game. You know, I would really love to see professional Overwatch move in some sort of similar direction to like how pro soccer works, which I'm avidly not a fan of, but you know, like you have your top league, you have your lower league, the best teams in the lower league move up at the end of the year, worst teams in the top league move down at the end of the year. And like I think it'd be cool if we could see some sort of independent structure for that, because I did have a great time watching pro-ams, excuse me. Like it was a lot of fun to watch some of these rookies come in. Like it was sweet to see Boat pop off. It was really fun to watch Tree and King play, and like, you know, a lot of these folks whose name I'm familiar with from contenders, but I don't watch a lot of. It's been really cool, and I've had a lot of fun watching collegiate this year. So many pros went from Owl in 2022 to collegiate in 2023. So, you know, it's been fun to watch like Redbirds and Maryville and those guys play. And I feel better about the landscape of competitive Overwatch at a quote unquote minor league level than I do about competitive Overwatch at like a pro league level, because it seems like Overwatch League is really set up to struggle, but everything else feels like it's doing kind of okay, which is cool. I don't like the season structure personally. I think it's ass. I really hate it. I thought last year's structure was great. I don't know why they changed from last year's structure. I've got a real big wasn't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like think that last year's structure was the perfect that it could be, but I certainly thought it was better than this. Also, I mean, I echo all the things you said about APAC. Like they got to get the things figured out. Like huge bummer to lose Battle of Texas, honestly.
Yeah.
Just for like the culture of the sport. I mean, those were pretty much the biggest LAN events in 2022. And I get, like, don't get me wrong, I get that all those players are Korean. I get that Rush is Korean. I get that they all want to play at home. Like, I vibe with that. I get it. But like, I don't know, man. Go play for Philly or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Keep Dallas in Dallas just for the sake of like keeping that battle for Texas. Because, you know, whatever battle for Seoul there is, I just don't think it's going to have, no pun intended, the same soul as Battle for Texas.
You know, the thing is, like, I don't want to make this the solution, because it does. I don't like how it sounds. But like, if you wanna have a fully fledged APAC region, you might as well just like circumvent the whole visa thing. And it's like, if you want to play on an American team, you live in America. You want to play on a Korean team, you live in Korea. You know, you should be in the region. Ideally, I get that this is an American company. I get that some of the best players in the freaking world are in Korea, and like the teams that have the money are gonna spend it to bring people over. But that being said, if you're gonna spend like you got the people that are doing it have got to be willing to come over here and play here, and vice versa. You got to keep the teams in their cities and then build out. It's kind of a ground up sort of deal. Like if the teams exist elsewhere. Then let them bring in their own people. Like it's fine, or bring people from here over there. I don't care. Just like as long as you're in, if you have to be kind of living where the team is based, and if the team is basing themselves somewhere else, change the name of the team. Move the team. Don't keep Dallas as a Dallas team if they're all out of Seoul now. I know Seoul has 2 teams now. Who cares? It's esports. Man. This is an entirely different format. It's like you were saying with the football club thing. They're their own club. If it's, you know, if a single city is big enough to have 3 teams, great. Yeah, you're gonna find them. It'll be like Rio in Brazil during Carnival. The people will be affiliated with neighborhoods instead of just the city. It'd be really cool. It would bring a different culture to the games, and I think they're trying too hard to stick to like this pro sports format. I think in the year of our Lord Lifeweaver 2023, I think we have to think outside the box with things that are not conventional sports. Are these players athletes? Yes, but this ain't a conventional sport. We gotta update. Get out, break tradition, break the mold, folks. Don't overcomplicate to try and do somersaults and backflips to keep Dallas in, or to put Dallas in Korea.
Exactly. And the last thing to talk about on this point before we just move on and get into preseason rankings is that, you know, we all need to pour one out for the Pandas. The Chengdu Hunters are no more. Rip the Hunters. I do really love a couple of things. I love thing one, that the Chengdu Hunters website is still up. Like there is some hope that maybe they will come back. I also like that the last thing they posted was from a year ago where they welcome a new player. I think that's kind of fun. The other thing I really like is that you can still buy the Chengdu Hunter skins in Overwatch. So spend those league tokens because, man, one day they're going to turn them into NFTs or whatever, and then you won't be able to get them anymore. So
I hate that.
I know, it sucks.
Don't like that.
Lot, but rip the Chengdu Hunters. I'm bummed that we won't have panda-related things to talk about this year, unless, of course, they show back up. You know, and honestly, like, here's my hot take, I suppose. If the Chengdu Hunters pull themselves together, they should not be allowed to play until after Midseason Madness, and they should have to win their way in through opens and qualifiers for playoffs and grand finals, just like any other contenders team.
I think that's reasonable.
My hot take.
It's reasonable.
And I hope they can do it. You know, like I really, just for the health of the league, again, like I would rather see Philly go to Seoul and turn into the Infernal than I would not have Philly anymore. And I would rather see Chengdu come to New Jersey and become the Newark Hunters rather than not have another team in the league.
Agreed.
Well, with that, you want to move on to rankings?
Some power rankings?
Real controversial and upset people?
Yeah, why not? Let me let's find us let me get my power ranking screen up here. Power rankings.
This is I don't know who needs to watch this podcast to put our list amongst the community lists of power rankings, but I hope that person finds it. Because at the end of the season, I want to see my shitty takes plastered against the shitty takes of everybody else.
I would like to point out that we've been generally very accurate, so I would say put us up there because we're right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we are the best, most underpaid.
Some might say the least paid.
It is the spectator difference. That is what we are here to guarantee. So, yeah, anyway,
all right.
Let's go ahead and kick rankings off with the easy one. I think Chengdu Hunters go number one. Chengdu Hunters, first place, no question.
I'd like just to point out that they are darkened in this updated version of the list. So
good. Okay. Great. I love that.
Rather than try and do that, let's try and do this in clusters because we're starting from scratch. It's a new season. We've seen very little of the team's actual capabilities yet. We're already on the first week, and we've gone through the first set of games, so we have a little bit of knowledge, but not a lot yet. So let's talk like top 5 here. I think we have to, in no particular order. We'll get to that in a second, but top 5. Let's put Atlanta Reign up there. Let us put San Francisco Shock have to be up there.
Let me ask you this question just real quick. Are we doing, and I don't have a preference, I'm cool either way, are we doing all of the league together as one? So like APAC and NA together on the same list?
I think we should probably separate them for now. Split regions. There we go. I think we should split them for now because we don't have a global tournament yet. So I think it's and we don't have a global tournament. We don't have a lot of information. What the?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you. We do not have. I'm looking at a lot of these APAC rosters for the first time right now. So,
yeah. I mean, the off season was a wild one.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's start with the West. Atlanta Reign, San Francisco Shock, Toronto Defiant, definitely. Florida Mayhem. I'll give you that one. I don't know about the Outlaws yet.
I think that's the tier break, honestly.
You do?
Like I think those 4 teams go above everybody else. At least right now.
Okay. Okay. So then let's talk top 4. Do we like that order, or do we want to change anything?
Okay. So here's my thing. You and I talked about this a lot yesterday when we were texting throughout the games. Like, I think the San Francisco Shock that we're looking at right now versus the San Francisco Shock we're going to look at in 6 months is wildly different. Wildly different.
Yeah.
In a sense that, like, I don't want to put the Shock, like, necessarily super high or on top right now, just because I feel like they really got to work their way into it. I know they played awesome yesterday.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong. But I personally, and this is a little spicy, I like Shock at 3. I like, this is real spicy. I like Atlanta Reign, Florida Mayhem, San Francisco Shock, Toronto Defiant.
That is very spicy. That's very spicy.
It is. I know.
I mean, San Francisco Shock, unfortunately, I have to put them above Toronto Defiant because they won.
Right.
Against all odds, they won. They lost that game 3 separate times. They lost that game
did.
3 separate times, and somehow, I say somehow, the unethical combination of he sang and proper pulled them from the depths of despair. But oh god, I have a hard time. I have a hard time moving Florida. No, I don't. Florida Mayhem will put up. I will give them number 2 right now. I actually will, and here's why. I think this is a Hydron year. Or wait,
it is. Oh my god.
Wait, is Hydron
fucking Hydron year?
Is Hydron on Florida or is Hydron on Toronto?
Hydron's on Florida. Yeah.
I'm
Did
double.
I say that right?
I'm double checking that because something feels wrong. I feel like I said that. I watched him play yesterday and I was super impressed by him, but I can't remember which game it was.
You're right. Hydron is not on Florida.
Okay. So
oh wait, this roster seems really old. Is this roster real? I don't feel like the roster on Florida's website is real. Who the fuck is Sauna? Never heard of Sauna before.
the Hedgehog.
Well, I guess. Florida Mayhem roster. I should go to Liquipedia and not to. But yeah, they do have some guy named Sauna. Huh.
All right, Florida Mayhem. Okay, here we go. Let's see, roster. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. They played insane yesterday. I watched them beat the absolute crap out of Vancouver, and I don't know. I think I think Checkmate and someone are on fire right now. They have Merit now, which is just broken.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I will give you Florida Mayhem at number 2 for right now. Until we get more. So we'll just leave it at that. And then Toronto Defiant, honestly, American Tornado is busted. Like,
yeah, man.
They have probably one of the scariest dives I've ever seen. It reminds me of Dallas Fuel from last year. End of season Dallas Fuel and like first tournament Dallas Fuel, where their dive was just ridiculously unstoppable kind of thing. Very, very cool. So yeah, Toronto Defiant, I tentatively number 4, but honestly, this entire top 4 can change at any given time.
Let me ask you one more really spicy question before we move on. What do you think about putting Florida above Atlanta?
No.
Okay.
That's a no.
Why?
I think that right now, let me get their roster up because I know I have my reasoning to start is the roster. first and foremost. Chio, Stalker, Fielder, they have Lip, dude. Like, they have Lip, Vigilante, and Stalker. That alone, I think in the tank battle, Florida, it takes the game, but Overwatch 2 right now is much less about the tank. It's about the tank's mistakes, but Hawk doesn't make that many like egregious positioning mistakes. And when it comes to DPS, I'm gonna put Lip and Stalker up against Merit and Checkmate any day. Stalker's disgusting, like absolutely disgusting player, and especially right now in the current meta, like we have to only go off of the current meta, which by the way is fairly good. I like the fact that we're seeing a lot of different combinations.
Yeah.
But it's a very tracer heavy meta right now, and Stalker is an incredible tracer player, one of the best in the world, easily. I think that Atlanta gets it, honestly. But that being said, this conversation's entirely different than it was last year. Where did my fucking power rankings go?
Oh man, it's fun doing a podcast for the first time in a year.
Yeah, right?
No, I mean,
There's my
I
power
agree with
rankings.
everything you said, honestly. Like, I think I needed to put that out there just to have the conversation, because I definitely do think Florida wins it in the tank battle, right? Like,
They do.
I take someone over Hawk and Donghack easily. Like, not even a question, I take someone. And you're right, like, Stalker's a phenomenal DPS. I think Checkmate is also really good, but I do agree, like, the big boon for Florida is the tank diff, and we're in a real coordinated meta. We're not in like a real tank heavy meta. So I'll take that. I'll stand. I like it. I'm down.
Yeah, and like I said, this conversation's completely different than the one we were having last year, because last year it was just like there are two very dominant teams and everybody else just kind of mid. This is not the case this year. There is a much closer talent gap than there was last year, which is very nice and very refreshing because it makes the games better. This is a much better year for the league in terms of the players and the team compositions and things like that. So this could change at any time. I'm very excited to see just this weekend alone. Like, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. So I feel real good about those top four. Why don't we do the bottom next? Like,
Sure.
You want to do like the bottom three?
Sure. Until proven otherwise, and this currently no particular order. Until proven otherwise, that's not what I wanted. I wanted New York Excelsior down there. Vegas Eternal, Los Angeles Valiant, and New York Excelsior. Bottom three.
Sure is.
Bottom three in no particular order. I actually, in a slight particular order, Los Angeles Valiant at the bottom. I think they're going to get blown out this entire first series. And if I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. But I don't have anything else to go off of because they're in the West now for whatever reason.
Yeah, so I'm working on getting all three rosters up so I can look at them side by side. I agree. I absolutely agree. These are the three bottom, and I think that that's exactly where the tier break goes. I just want to figure out what order they go in. And I know what order I personally want them to go in, but I don't know that that's accurate. Because, like, I want it to go Vegas, New York, LA, because I want Vegas to do well. Oh, God. They're just like a puppy dog, man. Like, I just want them to succeed. For fuck's sake, they took this whole roster for a second year. They saw the whole goddamn league hit free agency, and they were like, no, you know what? We feel good about these nerds, and we're going to do it.
I mean, I agree. I do agree.
But, you know, looking at LA's roster, I don't feel good about it at all. They have CJ. CJ's really good, and Seeker is okay, but like that's it. And that's not a team. Like I don't have a ton of faith in Crawley. I don't know enough about N2S and Liar to even know what to expect from them this season. Like I've seen CJ a lot in contenders and collegiate, and he's played really well. He played well in the pro-am, but her. But then like, okay, so looking at New York's roster, New York has a shitload of people on contract.
They have lip. They have lip.
Or
wait,
they do not have lip.
No, they have fits.
Lep.
They have fits.
They have
Fits is what I meant.
And like they also have Shockwave, who is a good tracer player.
Yeah.
They have Fitz, who is a great DPS. They have Psycho, who is also good on DPS. Kellen is a like decent tank. They've got fucking Creative on support. Like there's
here. Do you want me to spoil this train of thought really briefly?
Yeah, do it.
The results are in from the Atlanta New York game.
Oh, how bad was it?
3-0. 3 and out.
Well, I'll take my nice double points then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like I mean shit. Looking at the pick'ems this whole weekend, I gave New York 2 maps against Boston, and that's just because I expect Boston to like fumble twice. And I don't know when I expect New York to win a game. I guess next Saturday, New York plays the Valiant. So like maybe we'll get a good impression of what these teams actually look like. Cause like that's the thing, right? Is like it is hard to judge the quality of these lower tier teams when they're just getting blown out by the top 4 teams. Like it's hard. It's legitimately difficult to look at like a group and say like, oh yeah, like they have good consistency or good cohesion or their dive is on or whatever when they're just getting the shit kicked out of them.
I mean, in this case, it's a decent baseline because we're going. Our line of thought was literally, oh, they have these players. Well, those are the best players in the world. They just got wrecked by the Rain, who are also some of the best players in the world. Like, is it a perfect baseline? No, but it is more information than we had going in. So I mean, yeah. I could they be better than one of the worst 3 teams right now? Yeah, they could be. Who do they? If put it this way, I'd be willing to change their position if they do well against Boston, and if they do well against. Actually, if they do well against Boston and then they do well against, or at least hold their own against the Defiant, then I'll consider changing their rankings. I'm gonna call Toronto kind of a gatekeeper team this time around. They're not quite. I mean, they are top 4, no question, but they're definitely a gatekeeper team because they have sort of enough exploitable weaknesses that like if a team can find those weaknesses and at least perform well against them, then I'm willing to call them at bare minimum mid.
So perhaps we take this into account as I'm looking at it now. Results from the Pro-Am. Valiant and NYXL went 1-3. Eternal went 0-4.
Whew.
One of Vegas's losses was to the Valiant. So that sucks.
I'm not willing to. I don't want to use. I don't want to use the league competition in the Pro-Am as much to go off of because I know there were during the Pro-Am there were a lot of like visa issues, there were a lot of like ping issues and like game quality issues that were kind of interfering. So I'm not fully okay with using all of that information. Some of it we can definitely take it into like bare minimum account, but like you want to look at the Shock did not do great.
Yeah.
And yesterday they really stepped up by comparison. So it was the same thing with them. They were dealing with like visa and ping issues prior to the season opener. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm going back to like the whole Pro-Am thing. Really glad we did it. It needs to be improved how we get like the teams playing together, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. Like I don't disagree with that. I do. So here's the last thing that I'll bring up on these bottom three before we move on is like New York's got a big ass roster. They've got 8 people signed. Um, I did not watch this game that just ended because we were doing this podcast.
Right.
I'm guessing that Anyon, Halo. I'm guessing Anyon and Halo don't see a lot of game time just looking at the rest of this roster. Like if you have Lep and Creative on main support, so I don't see or Lep on main support, Creative on flex support, unless there's some sort of crazy double flex meta. I don't know that I expect to see much from Halo or Anyon. But that said, like Halo's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Halo was on Maryville University and won collegiate championship last year. Also was on Altiora that won 4th in Contenders Summer Series last year. So like New York's got depth in roster that quite frankly Vegas just doesn't have. And so I'm thinking that maybe as I've sat here, I have talked myself out of putting Vegas above New York and want to put New York back above Vegas.
All right, I'll let you have that. I'll let you
All
have
right,
that.
cool, thank you.
Let us let's go on to the mid-tier teams, and I did some little things while you were talking because my brain started working. I put a tier break between the 6 teams, right smack dab in the middle, and here's why. I am unsure of Washington, London, and Vancouver right now. I am very unsure of them. I'm also unsure about Boston, so I am open to arguments about them moving down to here. I want to talk about Houston Outlaws and Los Angeles Gladiators because you know their rosters, right?
Yeah, I sure do. I sure do.
Man, they're playing right now. This is going to be a gigabanger.
Yeah.
Or at least it should be. It should be.
It has every reason to be.
So with that said, I will, we'll talk about it in pick'ems more. I have the Gladiators beating Outlaws 3-2.
Wow, do you really?
Yeah,
I have the Outlaws beating the Glads 3-1.
I think it's going to be close, man. I really do. Let's see. Oh, because we have Dante. We have Dante on tank for the Glads. We have who is over? Who's tank on?
Piggy?
No.
Fearless.
Fearless is now tank on Dallas. Dallas has Violet, or not Dallas. Houston now has Violet. Funny Astro is on Glads. Like
and Houston also has Shu.
Yeah, and
so here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Glads have Babel and Lastro. They also have Kai and Yaki and Kevster.
Okay, so here's my thing, right? I think that LA has kind of a similar problem that San Francisco has right now, which is that Kevster is really good. Kevster is carry potential good in the same way that Proper is.
Yeah.
But I don't think LA is really primed to play well around Kevster. I mean, no disrespect to Funny Astro. I've enjoyed watching him play for the last couple of years, and I think Babel has played really well since this season has started. But I don't think that you can look at the current LA backline and not consider it to be a major downgrade from last year.
It is a downgrade. I do think though, right now we are kind of in a Lucio meta right now. Lucio was very prominent yesterday, so I will take Funny Astro over Violet any day.
I will too, but like here's my problem, right? Is that like Funny Astro is not good at playing with Kevster. They are both very good on their heroes, and so they make a lot of shit work, but like that to me is one of the big holes that we saw in LA in 2022 is that the coordination between Funny and Kev is not as good as it needs to be. And like, I don't know, man, Fearless is really good. And Fearless's peel almost offsets Violet's Lucio to me. Yeah, I don't know. This is definitely the struggle.
This
right?
is gonna be this is a hard match to predict. I can't change my prediction now, so like those are them's be locked. So if I'm very wrong, I'm gonna be very sad. But like, I don't know, man. It could go either way. Does Violet feed too much? Does
yeah.
Does Dante not pop off? I don't know. Like it could go either way.
Because that's really what it comes down to, right? Is like who feeds the most.
Yeah.
These are two teams where the games will be win and lost not by who plays the best, but who makes the most mistakes. Just straight up. And I feel better about Houston making less mistakes. Like Shu, Pelican, Happy, Fearless is a 4 squad that I have a lot more faith in than like Kevster, Dante, Yaki, Babel. I think my other problem is that like I feel like honestly LA has a big hero hole in DPS. Like Kai's great on hit scan, Kev is a hyper flex. I don't really get what Yaki is doing there.
Also hit scan would be,
but like also kind of hyperflex. Like Yaki plays a lot of Genji and a little bit of Tracer. So like,
he overlaps a lot. His pool overlaps a lot with Kevster actually.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those are the things that I see where like, yeah, I want LA to be really good. I think Dante is the best Ram we have in the league right now. I think LA can win a lot of games based on pure carry potential because Kevster Overwatch, but I don't know that I want to put him above Houston in a ranking. I just really don't know.
I'll give it to you. I can't think of a good reason to flip flop where they're at right now. I'm like, it's equal parts laziness and also like I can't really. I don't know. I don't know. We'll know after this game. We'll have a better idea after this game. But the game's going on right now as we speak. So yeah, I can't really think of a good reason. So then let's move on to Boston. Do they belong in this bracket? Should they drop down?
I'd say hard no. Put them down a bracket. I don't think they belong in that bracket at all.
Okay.
Straight up.
So then let's talk about these 4. Vancouver did okay yesterday, but they were up against Florida Mayhem, which is not really fair.
They got a map.
They did get a map. They did get a map. A lot of mistakes. They have a big cohesion issue.
Sure.
From what I watched. So I don't know. I think this is probably where they're at for right now. So then London Spitfire, Washington Justice, Boston Uprising.
How do you feel, my very good friend Brad Bailey, about putting Boston Uprising below the Justice?
Haven't seen them play yet. I'm not against it because I have a gut feeling that they're just going to be bad.
Yeah.
I think it's like the too big to fail mentality. There are so many big names and like a lot of just ego on that team. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna have it. I'm willing to put them down a little lower. Justice surprised me. They did pretty all right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of potential on that team, but they got a long way to go before they get even close to these 4.
For sure.
I think go ahead.
I would not even begin to make the argument to move Justice above the tier break. I think you're exactly right. But like, I think if there was ever a team to underdeliver, it is the 2023 Boston Uprising. And if there was ever a team to over deliver because no one expects anything out of them, it is the 2023 Washington Justice. Um, I I'm a big Justice fan. I'm a Justice apologist. Been a Justice apologist for a long time. For a long time, I have thought that the biggest problem with the Washington Justice is Decay. Decay is a phenomenal player. He is the best tracer in the whole goddamn world, IMHO, but he is a terrible team player. Just awful. Just the worst. Just the absolute worst.
Yep.
And Justice, I think, showed yesterday and showed in the Pro-Am that, like, they've got some real cohesion. It's weird. I don't know what Get Amazed is doing, like what team building activities they've been doing human knots every Friday to like learn each other's languages or what have you. But I think Justice are kind of primed to do a little above mid, not a lot above mid, but like a little above mid. And yeah, like I don't want to be the first person to say out loud that I think Smurf is washed, but I think Smurf might be washed. And like, man, as a longtime Washington Justice fan, I do know that you can only have faith in Decay for so long before Decay just doesn't deliver.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then that brings us to the London Spitfire, who I think at this point, I think they're going to struggle for a little while with the way the meta is right now, because Reinhardt's just bad. Reinhardt is bad. Is a bad hero right now. And that's very unfortunate. But I think as long as they can't do a classic rush effectively against teams that very clearly know how to play Ram Rush, I think they're going to struggle for a little while. I hope I'm wrong, because we love a London Spitfire arc. I think they have the potential to do very well like they did last year, but I don't see a reason to put them too high right now, because up until they show me something, I don't think that it's worth giving them. It's worth like putting them on a pedestal yet, and I don't think we should do that.
Yeah, I agree. I also I like London a lot. I enjoy the London storyline. I want London to do well. In my perfect world, the big change to this ranking that we're doing right now at the end of the season is that we see both London and Washington above that tier break, up there with like Houston and LA. Like, I think that'd be really great. I think that'd be great growth for both of those teams, and I think that's reasonable to aspire to. I don't know that we necessarily see either of them crawl their way into like top 5, but I do hope we see success for the Justice and the Spitfire. But like, yeah, I mean, like you said, Spitfire's got one look, and like Hottie's ball is pretty good. Hottie's monkey is pretty good. I don't want to say Hottie can only play Rhine. I know that Hottie can play other stuff. I know London can play other stuff, but I mean, let's face it, like their bread and butter is the Rhine Rush. And if they can't play that like Rhine Rush, Rhine Brawl kind of situation, which is not good right now, then I don't know what there is to hope for.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping for a nice little London arc, but for right now, I just we're gonna leave them where they are. So that completes the West for us. I think we should speed run the East, because there's only 6 teams, and it's pretty clear right now what's happening. This one we can use a little bit of the Pro-Am to determine, because they were all playing on the same ping for the most part. So and also we got scrim reports, some scrim leaks. So Soul Infernal, I have at the top right now. I've heard that they are absolutely just out of their mind playing right now. With Dallas Fuel being a close second, these are the 2 meta makers right now. After that, probably tier break, and then the rest of these teams. That's a tier break.
I think I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit.
Okay.
I think that you could slide Spark into that top tier. I think you could go. Yeah, I think there might be a little distance between like 2 and 3 in there, but I don't think that Hangzhou Spark deserves to be on the lower tier. I mean, they've got Shy and Leave.
Yeah.
Like Shy and Leave's a fucking sick combo, and like Gushue is good in the back line. Or I'm sorry, Gushue is good in the front line. Monk is good in the back line. 20, aka Elsa, played pretty well last season. So I won't also put up like a super strong argument, but I think Dallas goes above Seoul. If for nothing else than like the rush diff, you know, like it's kind of like the crusty difference, right? Like Dallas has a real coach, and it's coached with a lot of steam that's been playing with these players for a long time, and they won last year doing basically the same thing they're doing this year. So I've not heard enough about Soul Infernal to confidently say Dallas belongs above them. I'm fine to trust your judgment. I do think it's a little weird Poco's playing for the Infernal.
That is weird.
I didn't know that.
It's very
That's
weird.
Wild.
It's very weird, but apparently it's working. So,
hey man, if it fits at ships, one low flat rate, international both ways. But I feel good about like at least those top three. You know, whether we want to put Dallas or Seoul on top, I don't have the strongest feeling, but I do think Spark belongs in that conversation.
that's fair. That is fair. And that brings us to the below the tier break. Soul now has Prophet and Prophet. I had to,
which sucks.
It's weird.
Sucks.
It's weird.
I hate it.
It's so weird. I had to like overemphasize how I said the names. Don't like it. Shanghai, where's Shanghai at these days? Roster is...
I think Shanghai goes at the bottom of APAC. I really do. And it feels icky to say that out loud, but like dude,
they have oh.
Yeah, uh-huh.
They have Flood on tank, but they also
tank.
have Iris, who's like insane. Like Iris is incredible, and they have Hisu, who is like pretty good.
Yeah. They've Fled on tank, Brad. Fled has never played tank before.
Well, presumably he's played tank somewhere if he's on tank right now. They wouldn't just do that.
First off, I don't think you know that they wouldn't. Second off, like, he's up against Void is playing tank for Dynasty.
Okay.
And Piggy is playing tank for Guangzhou. Both good, proven tank players. I am inclined to say it's Seoul Dynasty, Guangzhou Charge, Shanghai Dragons. I will hear the argument for flopping Shanghai Dragons, Guangzhou Charge, but personally, like looking at these three, I don't know how you don't put Seoul at the top of this tier.
I'll let you have it. I will let you have it because I'm admittedly not that invested in APAC.
I mean, same, absolutely same.
So I will let you have it. Because I can't formulate a better argument right now.
Yeah, right? Like,
And Jimmy fucks, so, like, why not?
Jimmy fucks, dude. Jimmy fucks. So, plus, like, I really unironically like Farway. I think Farway is one of the best supports in APAC and is constantly just, like, underserviced. So... Jimmy, Piggy, Farway gives me a little bit of hope in the charge. Not a lot of hope, a little hope. I want Shanghai to do well. I do. Like, I want Shanghai to come out and be like, guess what, motherfuckers? Fleta plays tank now. Like, I think that'd be awesome. I think it'd be a lot of fun. My faith is low. Oh, it's so low. So
reasonable. Yeah. That is reasonable. Okay, so that wraps up our power rankings. This is take a good look for anybody watching. Take a good look. This is what we said. This is the official Spectator Diff power rankings for 2023, beginning of the season. Let's get us over to some predictions.
Little game of the week action. Love me some game of the week action.
Are we doing game of the week today?
Or not game of the week. I'm sorry, pick'ems.
I was gonna say we've only had one game this week or a couple games this week.
Change the name of my own thing. I'm gonna add one more of these in here as well. I fucked up all the dates, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's see. We had my pick'ems are here and doing what they do best. I'm gonna refresh this just to see what the scores are at, if there's any change right now. Oh boy.
I think it's still zeros.
Nope, it's 1-0 Outlaws. So you might be right. You might be right. We'll find out. Who knows? That's the fun. Okay.
All right, I actually updated the doc because it was wrong. But I'm also gonna throw one more game in for us here at the end.
All right.
But the first game that I want to talk about, we're sorry. Hey, if you're listening to this, we're recording on Friday the 28th, so we're not going to do anything for yesterday's games or today's games because that seems unethical. But we'll talk about tomorrow's games, and there's really only two of them that I think are worth us having a discussion about. And the first one, I think, is going to be maybe the game of the whole weekend, honestly. And it's San Francisco Shock, Atlanta Reign.
This is going to be this is going to be the big, like, telltale of where our top four are at, actually. That game is going to show us kind of how accurate we've been. And I changed my pick. I actually gave it to the Shock. I changed it after yesterday. I might change it back. I don't know. I have 24 hours to figure that out. And I'm not overly confident in it, but I was very impressed with the fact that the Shock should have lost 3 separate times and still didn't. I don't know. We saw Atlanta just blew out the Excelsior, and actually me changing this pick is going to depend on me rewatching that game, because I want to see how they played. Because these two styles, if they differ enough, it could be meaningless. So I'm currently in favor of the Shock. I think the absolutely unethical combination of Proper and Hisang may be enough to offset a lot of what goes on in Atlanta. And I think actually that's pretty much it. If they can, like, tighten up the handful of issues that they had yesterday, and there's no reason for me to think that they can't, because they did it more or less in real time during the game.
Yeah.
So like I think that I think they could win it. Yeah, I think they could win it. It's going to depend on not letting Atlanta run away with it just from the beginning. It has to, if anything, it's going to be stupid close.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be super close. I also have it 3-2 San Francisco right now. This is my test for Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
same.
Obviously we just did our power rankings. We just put Atlanta on top, and I made a strong argument for San Francisco Shock to be dropped down. So it's weird that I would pick them over Atlanta, I suppose. But, like, here's my thing. On paper, there's no reason that you don't put Atlanta Reign number 1.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, Atlanta Reign is the best team in the league. Hands down, no question. I get that. And I'm not going to try and argue anybody that, like, logically Atlanta Reign should be the best. I would rather just, like, be wrong in this pick and learn that Atlanta is good than I would bank on Atlanta being good.
Yep.
Because there's something about the Shock, man. It's that San Francisco magic. Like, I was really underwhelmed with Junbin in Pro-Am, and then Junbin came out yesterday running the best Junker Queen we've seen since Jotes. Like, Proper and Hisang is gross. Vindame has been playing out of his mind. So yeah, I also like San Francisco in this, even though I feel like it should be Atlanta. I kind of hope it's Atlanta, but I'm going with San Francisco.
So here's where I completely agree with this being the test for Atlanta. And we talked about this a little at length yesterday, actually. Where the Shock's issues are right now is that they're very immature. Most of the team is rookies right now. Technically, they're all from O2 Blast. They've all played together. The entire team was O2 Blast at one point or another, which gives them a leg up in the rookie department because they all know each other. They all know each other's play styles. This also lends itself to the fact that as of the game yesterday, the Shock have some of the wildest combinations that we've seen, the most diverse combinations of hero pools that we've seen in the league. The rest of the league is kind of sticking to a box standard meta, and the Shock have seemed at least more willing to test that and try other things, and it's not working for them. It doesn't work all the time, and there's the immaturity factor of they don't have the perfect disengage that a lot of Overwatch League veterans have. They tend to overcommit ultimates, they tend to overcommit positioning a little bit too much. The fights yesterday with Defiant went on way too long, to the point where it was like the casters were saying, "Oh, we're in 2-fight territory," but the fight kept dragging on, and then it suddenly became 1-fight territory on a lot of maps. It was really weird, and I don't love it. That said, they still tightened it up enough to win the game, and if they can just tighten up those little things, they will be unstoppable. Like, they are giving teams, at least they gave Toronto, enough problems by switching up the meta that that will carry over. That kind of trouble is going to be a problem for every team they go against that hits a box standard meta. Atlanta seems to me very box standard. And so if they're aggressive enough and can like put the nail in the coffin early, it will be a blowout for Atlanta. If they can't do that, there is no reason the Shock don't win this.
Yeah, and here's my thing. Like, I think you said it really well. San Francisco's biggest problem is their disengage. Like, they fight shit way too long. They were just throwing themselves at the wall against Toronto, which worked well because that's Toronto's style too. But Atlanta seems like the antithesis of that, right? Like, Atlanta has the experience and the veteran players and the veteran coaching to be like, all right, pull back. We lost.
Yeah.
We go again. And I could see that being hugely problematic for the Shock.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns. 3-2 Shock. But
yeah.
It could certainly go the other direction.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting. That's where I'm sitting.
All right, let's move on to the next one. I want to talk London Spitfire, Boston Uprising. I think on paper, this one is cut and dry. I think in reality, it is certainly not. So I would love to hear your thoughts Spitfire Uprising.
I think Boston wins it. I mean, we put Boston ahead of them anyway in the power rankings. I think Boston wins it. I don't think it's a tough one. I think it's going to be a close 3-1 is what I had. I think this is going to be one of those games that looks a lot closer in game than it does on paper. And I think Boston is going to give. Unfortunately, I just think they're going to run London over with talent, not even cohesion. I think they're just going to run them over with some weird combination of talent, and it's going to be close because London has the cohesion. I think that it'll still be 3-1, but that's kind of where I sit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll tell you, I have London 3-2. I am kind of preemptively calling it a reverse sweep. I would expect London wins a map, Boston wins 2 maps, London wins 2 maps and wins. That's kind of my call. This, to me, seems like the perfect game to dismantle the Boston Uprising if the Boston Uprising are to be dismantled.
100%.
Like, if Boston is going to have a ton of bench problems and a ton of ego problems, I think they're all going to come out against the Spitfire. Because again, like, Boston should be able to just like steamroll London on talent and star power alone. And I'm not convinced that they're going to. I really think that they might struggle. And I don't know for sure. I mean, London didn't look great against Washington yesterday, so I could certainly be wrong. I made these pick'ems Thursday afternoon before anybody played, so I'm still liable to change that in my own pick'ems. But at least here for the podcast, I'm going to lock in and say London 3-2, just because I think if Boston's going to fall apart, that's the game we're going to watch it happen.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. And I have nothing to add really. I don't.
Hell yeah. All right, let's get on to the next one, which I think is going to be another big talker. LA Glads, Toronto Defiant. I'll just say out front, I have Toronto 3-1, and I don't know how strongly I feel about that. I feel like this could really go either way. Like I think if San Francisco Atlanta isn't the closest game that we see all weekend, I think LA Toronto is going to be the closest game that we see all weekend. You know, this is the power of friendship versus the power of friendship. You know, this is this is two teams that everybody wants to win every game. I kind of feel like Toronto just doesn't have anything to diff Kevster, and I think that that's going to be a problem. But I also think that the rest of Toronto kind of diffs LA. Like I take
my boy
over.
Hydron exists. I don't know. Did you see him against the Shock? Dude, I've never seen Hydron play that well.
Hydron is a freak. And so here's my thing, right? Is like I legitimately want this to be American Tornado's year. I do.
Yeah.
I want Toronto Tornado to just like make it happen, go the whole way, just with nothing but the power of friendship and a chip on their shoulder. Like the narrative is it's tasty and I want it. But I don't know. So right now, yeah, I have Toronto 3-1 over LA. I do feel like that could change if LA blows Houston out, which again, I also didn't pred. So I think I honestly, I just want to have more faith in the Glads than I do.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of faith in the Glads this season, and last season I had all the faith in the Glads, so it just feels a little weird.
So here's what I got. I have Toronto 3-2 for right now. That's what I have.
Okay.
I am not guaranteeing that I will keep this depending on what happens in the Glad Outlaws game. That being said, this is the exact reason why I think Toronto is the gateway team for the top four. Is this match right here?
Yeah.
This, or if it was the Outlaws, the same thing would apply. This is why why Toronto is the gateway team. If the Gladiators can beat Toronto, I can give them into consideration for a top 5. 100%. But what I saw from Toronto yesterday is just so clean, and the only thing that they really struggle with is rush.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to persist because they have a good coach. And if, there's almost no way that they have only been playing 2 comps. Almost no way. So I'm very curious to see what happens, but I am very, very optimistic that the Glads can't beat them. Just hands down. I'm not even going to argue that. I do think that this is not going to be a close 3-2 either. I think this is going to be a 3-2 where the maps that the Glads win are going to be relatively close, but the ones that they lose, I don't think are going to be close at all.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's legit. I don't see any reason to disagree with that. Here's my kind of wild take, and I'll just throw this out there for posterity's sake. I think there is a real possibility that by the end of the 2023 Overwatch League season, Super is out of retirement and playing for the Toronto Defiant. Because I think Kaluge and Super are about to be fucking unstoppable on Team USA. Just disgustingly unstoppable on Team USA. And I think there's a real possibility that Kaluge talks him into coming and playing for Toronto.
You are out of your mind. That is unhinged, what you have just brought into the ethos.
It may be, but I'll say it. It's a rumor now because I said it.
Oh,
I said it, and you're thinking
God.
about it, and that makes it real. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much.
But tell me it wouldn't be cool.
It would be interesting. I don't even want to know the money that Toronto would have to shell out in order to make that happen, because you got to understand, the reason he's not doing pro stuff right now is because he makes so much money streaming. Like,
oh yeah, dude, it would have to be a bag. I'm not.
Yeah,
like,
they would have to. Yes.
Logistics aside, and I get that. Like, I get that pulling Super's ass out of retirement is a big ask. I get it.
My God.
Strikers played for San Francisco like 17 different times. It's possible.
That's NRG money. Possible. That's different.
You don't know what the Canadians have? The Canadians might have Canadian money. You don't know? You don't know that they don't?
I don't. I really don't. I don't.
All right. Last but not least.
Soul versus Soul. Guess what? Soul wins.
Soul wins. Everybody wins. Nobody's sad because Soul wins. Look, we already talked about it a bunch. Infernal's playing out of their mind. Dynasty looks better. I have Dynasty 3-1 in my Preds. And I'm not going to lie. It's largely because I don't like the Infernal's branding. I like Dynasty's branding better, and I think they deserve to win for it. That's my take.
The most scientific approach here to predicting outcomes of games. I have Soul Infernal 3-1. I don't care about the branding.
That seems like the right answer, honestly.
I don't care about the branding. Word from the scrim market is scrim bucks are up with the Soul Infernal, and I will scrim coin, whatever you want to call it. I am I am to the moon with Soul Infernal right now.
And you know what? Perhaps it's because I don't value the scrimlets enough. Like, I hodl them scrimlets. I do not put my money in scrimlets. But I like black and gold more than I like the weird infernal thing happening. I think Fusion's branding was better. I think Philly had better branding than Soul Infernal. And I've lost enough March Madness tournaments to people who picked their favorite jersey color. So I'm locking it in. Soul Dynasty, better branding, better team.
Okay. All right. Sure. Fine. Whatever. We'll find out who wins next time.
We sure will.
God.
And I mean, you know what? Speaking of next time, unless you got anything else, I think that's a fine place to wrap.
That's a nice place to put a bow on all this. I think that's all. Them be our Preds. Them be our power rankings. You heard it here first.
I'll tell you what. Can you pull up the power rankings one more time so I can write them down?
Power rankings, uno mas. Where'd they go?
NA. This is, I suppose, me also reading out for all you audio listeners out there. I know we had Atlanta Reign on top. And then I believe it was Florida. And then it was SF Shock. And then it's Toronto. And then it's a tier break. And then Houston Outlaws. LA Glads. And another tier break. And the Justice. Boston Uprising. London Spitfire. This is compelling podcast content. I know it. Vancouver Titans. Tier break. I kind of forgot I snuck NYXL back up there above Vegas. God, I want Vegas to do well.
Yeah.
I really do. I just want them to do well. They're not gonna, but I want it. All right, so that's NA. And then APAC, which is only like 2 teams. Got Dallas Fuel, Dallas Korea, my favorite place on the map. Seoul Infernal, Hangzhou Spark. Objectively the hardest one to spell out of the group. Tier break, Seoul Dynasty, Guangzhou. No, I lied. Guangzhou is harder to spell. Charge, and Shanghai Dragons. I feel good about it. I do. I like it. I think it's a good place to wrap. and I am excited to look back at the end of the year. So that will do it for this episode of Spectator Diff. I'm going to move my show notes over here so I can look at the camera while I say it. Again, please subscribe to us here on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio of our show, subscribe on your podcast app of choice. You can follow me on social media. Jesus Christ. You can follow me on socials at MC_DJ_MC.
And me at lastcall_gaming.
And until next time, just remember, we're better at watching Overwatch than you.
GG's, everybody.